What did we cover this week? Well, we discussed bits, bytes, and binary, how we went from Jacquard's punched cards controlling weaving patterns to Babbage's difference engine, Herman Hollerith's census data punch cards, which became IBM or Hollerith cards, the first electronic numerical integrator in computer, and we discussed that punch cards occupy a lot of space, but became binary code as magnetic data or on-off electronic signals. The modern computer has the same components as Babbage's difference engine. A modern computer has a central processing unit, which is programmable for various operations, separate data and program memory, instruction-based operation, and separate input and output units. Your phone, smartphones, iPhones, are small pocket computers that are very powerful and have the equivalent of millions of on-off switches to process and store data, and the input-output device is now a touchscreen. We noted Wikipedia definitions, but warned that the first sentence in Wikipedia may not be the accurate answer. For example, a byte, in computer science a ubiquitous unit of storage measurement, but also integral data types. More accurate would be to say that a byte is data which may be stored, and that while originally it was a variable number of bits, the explosion of home computers based on 8-bit microprocessors in the 1980s has made obsolete any meaning other than 8 bits. We compared binary or base 2 with decimal or base 10 and hexadecimal or base 16, which is how RGB colors are defined in HTML code for web design. We compared 1-bit, 8-bit, 24-bit, and 32-bit pixel or bitmap-based images and differentiated them from vector or Bezier curves, and noted that Bezier curves are mathematically defined formulae which aren't visible on the screen. We see a black line representation in drawing mode. In preview mode, we see only whatever stroke or fill we apply to the Bezier curve, stroke being applied to the path itself to give color to the path, and a fill filling in the area inside the curve, whether it's an open curve or an open path or a closed path. But bitmaps and vectors are both rasterized as output, whether to your screen or to output devices such as a laser or inkjet printer or projectors, image setters, or plate makers. And that also applies to type, which is Bezier curves, defining a path, and the path is then rasterized or filled in when it is ripped to the screen or ripped to an output device. You should now understand why these equations are true. And we discussed the 4 design principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. We also looked at Robin Williams' strong advice: don't be a wimp. When making decisions with these principles to produce a strong visual statement, organized in a way that facilitates viewer comprehension, you don't make subtle differences in contrast, repetition, alignment, or proximity. Make it strong. We did our first exercise in Adobe Illustrator using the pen tool. We looked at layers, the pen tool, the anchor point tool, Option Alt key, Option on the Macintosh or Alt on the PC, Shift to constrain, spacebar to move art while drawing. We discussed open paths such as exercise 1A paths, and closed paths such as exercise 1B shapes. We looked at path anatomy. A path is defined by at least 2 anchor points. A path with multiple anchor points has path segments between anchor points, and an anchor point has direction control handles, at least if it's a curve. If it's straight line segments, you won't see handles. So the anchor point tool can be used to pull out the handles, which can then be adjusted using the direct select tool to pull on the handle or change the angle of the handle to change how the curve moves, similar to the vector forces which describe the trajectory of a projectile. The main selection tool moves objects, while the direct select tool can be used to adjust the curves, again by moving the handles, or by grabbing the curve itself anywhere you want to and just pulling up or down or left or right on that to change the shape of the curve. Next week we will explore strokes and fills in a little more detail, using various brushes and fill types, and we'll add more tools to your tool set. building on what we've learned so far.